Following the discussion and analysis, we're joined just by Dr. Auqaab Alizai, Professor of Strategic Studies.
دكتور عليزي،
دكتور
تعامل باكستان
Alizai,
الآن مع هذه المرحلة
how is
تعامل
Pakistan
مبني
handling
على
this
مذكرة التفاهم
stage?
السابقة؟
Is
هل لا
it
زالت
based
موجودة
on
هذه
the previous
المذكرة
MoU?
وتحاول
Is it
باكستان
still
إحياءها
there?
من جديد
Is
يحاول
Pakistan
البسطاء
trying to
إحيائها من
revise
جديد،
the
أم
MoU
نتحدث عن سياق
again?
مختلف
Or are
تماما
speaking about a
جديد تماما؟
totally
كيف
different
نتعامل مع هذه
agreement?
الصعوبات؟
No, there's no different agreement. All these
لا
stipulations,
يوجد اتفاق مختلف.
all these particular conditions, the 6 conditions are included within the MoU. The first one is the use of threat of force. The first 2 conditions are the use of language and threats. That is included in Article 1. The actual use of force included in Article 1. And the other aspects of sanctions relief and compensation are all included. That was, if you remember, $300 billion for reconstruction for all the damage that has been done in the past 2 wars from last year and this year, especially this year, because it's much more extensive this year. So I don't think there is much that is different. And the removal of the blockade, which is Article 4. So that's not different in any way, because the United States was supposed to leave the area within 30 days. They did not. So because they wanted to renegotiate the whole MoU, because they felt that they made a mistake, primarily because of Lebanon and Israel participation and actions within Lebanon. And that's where the issue is. The Iran wants.
الولايات المتحدة
What is
وإيران
Pakistan doing now is trying to convince Iran and the United States to reinstate or revive the MoU. Of course, you said that all the conditions mentioned by both parties are included in this MoU. So is Pakistan trying to revive it?
I think where the sticking point is, as I mentioned, it is Lebanon. And that's where the problem lies. US won't be able to back down on that, primarily because of Israel and because of all the pressure on Trump, particularly because of all his funders and all the billionaires that were backing him, putting pressure on him, and Israel is putting pressure on him. And then he's got the alternate pressure, trying to relieve the pressure on the economy as well. So he's in a very difficult state. But Pakistan is pushing the idea. Sorry?
الإفراج عن الأموال المجمدة بالنسبة لإيران والتعويضات التي تطالب بها إيران كذلك. هذه هي الأولوية
I think, well, the use of force on all fronts. This is their second condition, is it not? As far as Iran is concerned, these new conditions, the 6 conditions, were all part of the MoU. This is the second condition, including that, but they're specific towards their allies in Lebanon and Yemen and Palestine and Iraq maybe as well. So the idea is to stop action on all fronts, and then they can talk about the Hormuz Strait. And that's what they're putting forward. So that means actions by Israel, actions by the United States, and in real terms, actions by Saudi Arabia on the Houthis. That's what the Iranians want. Now, whether that can happen, because if Saudi Arabia stops, maybe the Houthis will relax a little bit.
Different, quite different from the statements being made from the official sources, which negotiations now Hormuz Strait. Now the Hormuz Strait is a priority. So they are not talking about ending the war on France or nuclear power.
Yeah, that's true. Right now, the real pivot is to make sure the American economy is back on track and the global economy is back on track. There's a lot of pressure on the US for that. And as a result, Hormuz Strait is the cutting point right now. But remember, Iran always used Hormuz Strait as a pressure point so that they could put pressure on the Americans to fulfill the other conditions as well. So Iran has stated that all the negotiations, what they're having with Oman, have no consequence as far as the Hormuz Strait opening up. And they want all these conditions satisfied before the Hormuz Strait opens up. And that may lead to future negotiations on the nuclear issues. So right now, the fundamental issue is Hormuz Strait, you're right, as far as Americans are concerned, but as far as Iran is concerned, all these conditions need to be met before the Hormuz Strait can be opened up. And this is where the block is. But I think it's also an opportunity.
Iran has stated that Pakistan invited Iran to sit on the table, but Iran will not sit on the table unless the favorable conditions are created. What are the favorable conditions for Iran?
Well, this is the first condition. These are favorable conditions that Iran wants. The 6 conditions, that's what they've reiterated that. They first initiated the idea that there'd be no more threats. The problem is, Trump keeps on threatening. Then there's action against Iran and strikes again and again. So if there's a prolonged period without strikes, that would settle the temperature down and allow some relaxation amongst both countries. That's one of the main things. And then sanctions relief and frozen assets unfrozen. These are good behavior, but he also mentioned good behavior. Iran has been mentioning this. These are favorable conditions. Now, the fact of the matter is, we're not looking at nuclear issues right now. The priority is the Hormuz Strait. Once that is settled and relaxed, then there could be a build-up.
So we will have a deal. So when should Iran sit on the table then? When should Iran sit on the table? I think meeting the 6 conditions should cut the negotiations.
No, this is a preliminary to the long-term negotiations, which were always about the nuclear issue. Iran has always mentioned that they're not interested in a nuclear weapons program, but they want the right to use nuclear power, civil power. And that's where the issue lies as well, because Israel wants to push for zero access to nuclear issues. So this is where the issue lies, but that will be later on. Now, you can see that this is partly manufactured from both sides. Hormuz Strait was always used as a leverage, and the Iranians have been using it from the beginning.
Speaking about the nuclear file, it's not needed now. The United States has reiterated that they postponed negotiation of the nuclear file, and they're now talking about opening the strait, managing the strait, future navigation. So when it comes to sitting together for a common deal,
well, once the strait is opened up and the Americans comply with the conditions, which I doubt they will in full, but I think both sides always go to the extreme before they come down a little bit. And if they can comply on some of the main issues, then they can get together and start talking about the other issues. But that's always the case. You always use a harder position at the beginning and then maybe come towards the center eventually. The idea is you're not going to give up your conditions. You always make a hard bargaining point at the beginning. Trump has always done this. The Iranians are doing this as well. So once they start talking, once they start negotiating, some of these conditions are more flexible than the others. The use of force and the threat of force is a main condition that is not flexible. But the idea of long-term reconstruction and release of funds can be partially done in a step-by-step process, which was happening, and that was the idea in the MoU. So it is a regurgitation of the MoU. But the problem is, will the United States commit to that? And that's what it is.
وأشكر ضيفي.
Thank you so much, Dr. Auqaab.
Thank you.
كان معي دكتور عقاب عزيزي الدراسات الاستراتيجية. شكرا لكم على هذا النقاش وهذا التحليل.